Hiya, Dr. Alison JK here. So we're going to do something a little bit different today. The nature of the times calls for this. And so please bear with me, those of you who've been with me for well over a decade, because you're going to know a little bit of the beginning of this, and then we're going to get into that something different. So many of you who have been with me for well over a decade know that I had that radio show. I was asked to do a weekly radio show based in 2011, based on the Mayan galactic alignment of December 21st, 2012. Now, I had only been back from my decade in Asia for a little bit over a year when they asked me that. And I wasn't doing anything public facing within my business for the Mayan ruins or the December 21st, 2012 alignment. But I had been taking private VIP clients to the Mayan ruins, which are a hop, skip, and a jump across the Gulf of Mexico from where I am based. And so I tuned in, intuitively got a huge, strong yes, and did it, and became very aware of what the nature of the times we're stepping into were at that time, a 20-year window between 2012 and 2032, which is considered humanity's greatest evolutionary leap, aka humanity's spiritual awakening times. And what I've come to understand is that this is greater of a change and evolution than the one from being hunters and gatherers into the agrarian-based owning of land Neolithic revolution. And so I used to have, following along with that radio show, after I stopped it, I had for a decade that monthly free call that in the beginning I opened up the call with a reading on the collective field of consciousness and helped people track where we are on the 20-year Windows trajectory. And I've continued to do that with the videos that you are offered here with what I am talking about that day, or that week. But I don't think that I have stepped out with you all in the way that I'm getting ready to so clearly. Now, the people who work with me in my most advanced program, the Mastermind, and even the Recalibrate, Stabilize, and Rebirth signature program, know that I tap into channeling. That it's my intuitive Hawkeye, some of you know that term, in an extended reading. And I do that frequently on behalf, and have for decades, on behalf of my clients. And so we're going to do that today. Now, there's one thing that's really important that was called to my awareness in the recent days, in that when my first career was in politics, and it was to get people elected. At the time I lived in California, and it was to get people elected to not only the state assembly, but the federal, who were not just going to vote yes on protecting the environment on legislation, but they were actually going to sponsor and write that legislation. And so for the first campaign I was asked to work on, I helped get the first Latina woman elected to the California State Assembly, and she wrote a piece of legislation that helped preserve the last bit of green space in LA Basin. And so I got my master's. I proceeded to then come off of my bachelor's track, which ultimately was English literature, and most of you know that it started as psychology. And after 3 semesters, I was like, you're not showing me how to be the happiest, most thriving version of myself, know how to help others do that. So I then switched majors to understand society more, and then switched majors again to understand the effects on our conditioning of marketing and advertising, and ultimately ended up with that English Lit bachelor's with the focus on creative writing, studying humanity, studying psychology, sociology, and an art form. And I had moved to San Francisco to go for my master's, but then that job in politics came in as if out of the blue, and whoo, did I just hit stride. I was so passionate about it and so successful in it. It's also when I learned to meditate, because of that level of success, I had to understand how to handle the increased stress because of the success. They were asking me to go on more and more important campaigns. And so I say all of this because when I fast forward now about 4 to 6 years. I graduated with my master's in public administration and public policy with a focus on environmental policy, and was doing the job hunt for 6 months. I did not see any doors opening, right? So I stepped back and asked my consciousness, what my guidance, what is happening here? And my intuition told me, Alison, if you want to enact or activate that much change, do it one consciousness at a time. And so I had at that time also picked up my first energy medicine modality. So I went into the classroom teaching, relying on my bachelor's of English literature and creative writing, and then began the side gig, which is now my full-time business. After the 12 years of teaching, including the 10 overseas in the international school system in Asia, coming back here to the States, dropping that career, and then bringing what had become 5 different energy medicine modalities and holistic life coaching PhD into this business, including my yoga teacher training in India. And so in the yogic path, there are 8 limbs to yoga, and only one of them is about the body postures, which is completely designed around opening the chakras. 5 of those 8 limbs are about working with your consciousness. So you can kind of see more of the alignment if you're new to me. 2 of my 4 books, if not 3 of my 4 books, are written about this greatest evolutionary leap and what's required. So I have been acting as a guide through these times. And the last thing I want to mention is that in the Vibrational Upgrade Systems Mastermind, this is where people get trained to become vibrational upgrade practitioners, and they go overseas with me to Glastonbury, England, the heart chakra of the planet. There are 4 levels, and the 3rd level is the Dragon Master level. And that's when I start to show them how to work on behalf of the collective. So what we're going to do today, and some of you know that I have started a second radio show. I was asked as if out of the blue, the opportunity or new possibility came in, and I said yes to it. It was very, very clearly aligned. We are in new times now. We are in not only the second half of the 20-year window, 2012 to 2032, but it's like the intensity of the birth canal. And I know that all of you can perceive that living in a body on planet Earth right now. So I want to offer an extended intuitive reading as I tune into the collective field, which I do in every recalibration. Those of you who have received clearings and activations and recalibrations from me know that in every one there is the work on the conditioning and the collective unconsciousness, whether I say it out loud at that point in the clearing or not. So I'm very used to tuning into the collective field. In fact, it's kind of where I operate at that macro level. And that's why I gave you the story for those of you who don't know it. So I began this video a few moments ago, and the first thing that came in, and so now I'm doing the complete video here, had a little tech wonkiness. And so the first thing that came in was pieces. And when I listened to that, asking, give me more information, please, to my team, the intuitive synthesis that occurred and that is occurring during this video of this extended intuitive reading is that whilst it can seem like things are in pieces, if you look globally, it's actually the old paradigm structures are reaching their systemic limits. And the rising is needed now. And look at my body, it just gave an exhale. And I know that every time I'm talking to somebody new, whether I'm like receiving a massage or overseas, or it's whatever, every time I talk about the bigger framing, that kind of exhale happens. And that's what we're up to here today, to help you better contextualize with this extended intuitive reading at a macro level, giving you insight so that you can better contextualize the conscious evolution we are actually going into and are in the midst of. And it feels like the intensity of the birth canal right now, you know, with the contractions. And so another thing I want to offer is that something I've noticed throughout the decades of doing the energy medicine is that the mind, body, spirit holistic system that we each are, when it's releasing something, think of a fever needing to peak before it breaks. That's the most typical example I give. And the second most typical example I give is for when you had zits. A zit would have to reach its peak before you could pop it without having, the scarring. So we're in the midst of that. That's why I think the first thing that came through with this extended intuitive synthesis, tuning into the collective field, is that it can appear to you that things are in pieces. And that's not actually what's happening. The old systemic limits of the old paradigm, they've reached their systemic limits. They can't hold the rising that we're meant to do. And so new is needed, and the new hasn't formed yet. Now, most of you listening to this have already made changes since around 2011 and are rising, yeah? And so tuning in more and accessing the unified field of consciousness, there is a lot of worry out there. And hence, it seems like why I was called to do a second radio show now in this later half of this 20-year window, rather than introducing the concept now as we go around the bend towards 2032. That additional level of support that I can provide is being asked of me in my service to the overall paradigm transition out of the old and into the new. And we're not in the new yet, but you can sense the new. And that's part of what is causing unsettled feelings, because we're not seeing it physicalized yet. But many of you who are sensitive, intuitive, empathic, sense the new, and yet you don't know how to bring it out of the metaphysical, meta meaning beyond, and into the physical. And that's what I've been doing, frankly, with my signature program for a decade now, is helping people step into that co-creator role. The empowerment that is happening, not expected, that just made it very clear, it's not expected. The empowerment that is happening for humanity isn't seen for what it is. And I know that one thing that I have come to understand, particularly from my 10 years in Asia, is the mind will interpret things, the ego mind, as we say in Buddhist meditation, which is what I'm steeped in yogic meditation. Buddha pulled meditation out of yoga. I don't need to go there right now. The mind is steeped in its need to know and familiarity, and the sense of the heightened, let me just check in, the heightened sense of awareness that many of you have. You don't know how to use it yet. And so what seems like a hypersensitivity possibly to light or sound, it's part of the new vibrational backdrop we're living in, gearing us towards the new era, which is meant to be the new golden era. And so some of that sensitivity is actually your intuitive body opening up. And so learning how to work with that as the skill it is, instead of it hurting you, damaging you, you getting it diagnosed and it being made into something it's not, is the better approach. And being shown getting the feet on the bare earth, no matter where you are, no matter what time of year it is, or you're back up against a tree, grounding into the earth. I've been making the suggestion for years, it's coming in again. Put a copper in the United States as pennies. There was pence in the UK, that's now been let go of. But copper in your shoes, copper is a conductor of electricity, and the higher vibrations, it's energy. And we say chi in Qigong, which I teach. We say prana in yoga, which I teach. Ki in Reiki, which I teach. And so that is electric and magnetic. And so part of why you feel kind of overstimulated, leaving the internet aside and socials aside, is this increased energy at a higher vibration with its electric aspects and its magnetic aspects. So if you look at the magnetic aspects, many of you have worked with the law of attraction. I have been fielding so many people through the decade of running what was Magic Manifestation and Money Flow, my signature program that is now metamorphosized to better serve nowadays and to recalibrate, stabilize, and rebirth. And I'm bringing that up because so much of the focus in there has been on how to work with this sensitivity, how to increase your intuitive, in the next step, increase your intuitive clarity, and many more steps after that, so that it doesn't overwhelm you, but instead you understand that it's a skill. And so many of the people coming in have said, now I'm talking about the magnetic aspect of the magnetism and the electricity that is a part of chi, or the life force. And many people have said, I've been working with the law of attraction for years, and I've hit a plateau. I don't know how to actually get it to work. But they sense there's something more that they can access. So that's where I come in with my work. So it seems like a lot, and I know too, a lot of what I've been doing with people and with the collective on behalf of it is to come out of that victimhood to anything outside of us, no matter our background, socioeconomically, gender, culture, or age, doesn't matter, and come out of where we feel victim to any of our self-talk. We are going through a conscious evolution, and it can becoming conscious of all of the toxicity at a mental, emotional, and physical level that's been being purged since, some of us are aware, since 2010, but really since December 21st, 2012, we've had different segments of people awakening. COVID was kind of like a vacuum at that point, after like 2014, 16, and 12 as well. They all had, I saw new influxes of newly awakened people wondering, how do I work with this that I perceive in this new way I'm feeling and seeing life? So in reading the unified field of consciousness's data at a macro level, this lack of understanding in contextualizing it into the magnetics is in part why so many people were drawn to the law of attraction, which is actually, during a PhD I learned it's the law of magnetics. The LOA is, law of attraction is more cultural nomenclature. And then the electrical part of it really works with the central nervous system, our neurology, right? Because when there's processing happening at the neurological level, for it to leap across the synapses, our neurotransmitters and our neuroreceptors are all electrical. So that also feels like why it's the focus that has been in the last couple of years on the central nervous system being overstimulated, and it's been attributed to, what's going on globally, which is a factor, and being on technology all the time and receiving the blue light, which is a factor, and the worry that I've already addressed to a degree is a factor. But what hasn't also been acknowledged, that I'm so grateful that just came in, is the electrical aspect of the increased, as we rise in humanity's greatest evolutionary leap, there is a higher vibrational backdrop overall to the field that we're living in. So that means we're going up in energy, in vibration, and that is composed of electricity and magnetism and electricity, to keep it consistent for you. Okay, I just got, it's almost as if some of you need a hard hat, as if to shield you from all the overstimulus. And that's not what's needed. What's needed is to learn the skills and capacities that I know I've been teaching people actually all these years, with how to work with this increased influx at both your ego mind level, so your daily self-talk, and then at the unconscious and subconscious level and systemic level of your mind, body, and spirit, to have more self-mastery over your system and more mastery over the co-creation process then, therefore. Because we are meant to be co-creating this golden new era, and not just in the reactivity to the shifting that's happening as we watch the toxins purge, where people have been abusing power, for example. That's all coming to the surface. So the Black Lives Matter, the Me Too movement, that was a part of it. But we're at a new stage in this 20-year window, and the energies are different. And I know that you all feel that. We've rounded another bend in this 20-year window trajectory of humanity's greatest evolutionary leap. In the more that you can recognize this is an evolution in consciousness, and then make choices to help you do it more consciously, the more comfortable you'll be. So what's coming in now is to hold the faith and the trust. And what's coming in too is one of my favorite Einstein quotes is, the most important choice a human being can make is whether they view the universe as friendly or hostile. So this is following in on what was just previously said, in that having the overall understanding contextually that we're meant to be moving into the new golden era, having the faith and trust in that the universe is friendly. Now you can get all the scientific proof of the black holes and where it's not friendly, but you can also get the scientific proof that the universe is friendly and hostile, is friendly, not hostile. And I point to the body apparently because, I mean, being more conscious means taking better care of the body, right? But look at how it breathes on its own. Look at how it's set up to be healthy. And there's breakthroughs happening all the time in the field of health that you can see. And so, and that you may not see, but the possibilities I know, I don't work with health issues unless it's within family anymore. I did for a long time and successfully with cancer, etc. And I'm not going to go there right now, but what I'm getting at is you could have a problem and you could see that it's a problem. My first book being titled, What If There's Nothing Wrong? And I was very much addressing health at one level with that titling. So let me wrap it up, because what that was getting to in the weeds, but what was being said is redirect your focus. And this is an example of the self-mastery over your ego mind and self-mastery overall with your consciousness and with your co-creation, because we are collectively co-creating the new era. So redirecting your focus onto the possibilities and onto the new and onto the friendly. I have a story at the end of my second book, Vibrational Upgrade, A Conspiracy for Your Bliss, where I was working with one of the main yogic gurus who came out of India into the States in the 60s and opened up the first holistic center in the United States, not just a yoga center, but a holistic center. And I had been doing so many back-to-back one-on-ones, mostly in person, but some remote. And I was looking for, because I was feeling really spacey and felt different and didn't necessarily feel like it was great for me. And so I was looking to a guru who understood, 'cause this one understood, this is Guru Dev Amrit Desai, he's on my website, who founded Kripalu Center and also Nidra Yoga. And so I went to him because he understood prana so much on a weekend event at his ashram locally here to Florida, and asked him what are the effects, with the intention of asking him what are the effects of running so much prana through me. And instead, I just this is one time I sat at the feet of a master and received his transmission over a weekend event, and then went up to thank him afterwards and offered a complimentary energy medicine session. And his assistant said to me, I'm not going to use the terminology because it might, no, I will, body work whore. Loves body work, loves the work. And so I gave it to him, and then we ended up working together for more sessions. And one of the last sessions, I asked him, because I was starting to have my consciousness piece something new together and have a new awareness that's pretty profound. If chi is circulating, or prana is circulating in our system, and it's called vital life force energy, it's keeping us alive. Yeah? I didn't say that to him. But what I said to him was, so is another way to talk about this as soul force? Because it transcends. I'm not going to go into a whole teaching about the subtle energy system here in consciousness right now, but it transcends the physical. It's electric and magnetic, and the Chinese have it more physicalized than the yogic culture, where they have it, they go even more subtle with energy in their understanding of it. And so I said, is it, so it I'm losing it here because I'm starting to teach and come out of that more open, intuitive space. The bottom line is, not only is it universal life force energy, I asked him, is it soul force? And he smiled and said yes. And then I said, could it also be considered not just life force, but love force? And he got like all glittery in his eyes, smiling and nodding. It keeps you alive. The earth runs it too. A telluric current is what it's called at the earth's level, as it goes through the earth's ley lines. I trust this has been beneficial. Namaste.